The number that ended my marriage wasn't a zero or a negative balance. It was 47,328. Not a pin. Not a lottery ticket. $47,328. My name is Laura. I'm 37 years old, a teacher. And for 11 years, I thought I'd married a responsible, good with money man. We weren't rich, but we were careful, and we had one rule: no big financial decisions without both of us at the table. At least that's what I believed, until the day I opened a credit card statement I didn't know existed and realized my husband had quietly built a secret debt that was bigger than our car and our emergency fund combined. This is the story of the $47,328 lie that ended my marriage, and how that same lie forced me to build a life that finally belongs to me. Daniel and I met in college. He studied business, I studied education. He joked that I'd teach kids how to read, and he'd teach adults how to read fine print. Early on, we felt like a perfect balance. I handled the day-to-day details: grocery lists, meal plans, our shared calendar. He handled the big picture: investments, long-term savings, the boring but important stuff. When we got married, we did all the right things: joint checking account, shared budget spreadsheet, emergency fund we were oddly proud of. We celebrated paying off my last student loan with cheap champagne and instant noodles. After a few years, life got heavier. We went through fertility treatments, multiple rounds, each one another mix of hope, hormones, and hospital waiting rooms. Insurance covered some of it. A lot came out of pocket. We talked about every payment. Every time we swiped the card for a clinic bill, we did it together. The treatments didn't work. I gained weight from the meds, lost sleep, and went back to grading papers with a smile that felt painted on. Daniel threw himself into work. Overtime, conferences, opportunities. He started traveling more. Client visits, strategy retreats. I saw more line items on our joint card. Restaurants in cities I wasn't in, bars he said were just networking. When I got anxious, he'd say, "I've got us, okay? You carry the emotions, I'll carry the money." I wanted so badly for that to be true that I let it calm me. About 3 years after our last failed cycle, I came home to a pile of mail on the kitchen counter. One envelope stood out, thick, with Daniel's name and a bank logo I didn't recognize. I almost tossed it to his side of the table. Then I saw the word statement. I opened it without thinking. My eyes went straight to the bold number on the front page. New balance, $47,328.17. Under that, cardholder, Daniel Hart. Authorized user, Laura Hart. I felt the room tilt. We only had one shared credit card with a different bank. This was a card I'd never seen, with a limit we'd never discussed, carrying a balance larger than our entire emergency fund. I flipped through the pages, shock burning into something sharper. There were charges from luxury stores I'd never stepped into. Flights for one. Hotel stays in cities where he'd told me he was just in meetings all day. Payments to bars, clubs, and what looked suspiciously like a resort. We had once said we'd go to when things settled down. The oldest charge was almost 3 years old. My first thought was naive. Maybe it's fraud. Then I saw a pattern. The dates lined up with his work trips, and the billing address was our house. By the time Daniel walked through the front door, I was still at the table, the statement spread out in front of me. "Hey," he said cautiously. "You okay?" I slid the envelope toward him. "What is this?" I asked. His eyes fell on the balance. His face lost all color. "It's just a card," he stammered. "I pay it. It's under control." $47,000 is not under control, I said, my voice shaking. "And how exactly are you paying it, when I know what comes into this house?" He tried to smile it off. "Look, I didn't want to stress you. After everything with the treatments, I thought you needed less weight, not more. So you added it behind my back instead? I said. Tell me it's gambling. Tell me it's some crazy investment. Tell me something. He sat down, shoulders sagging. It started small, he said. After the last failed round, you were gone. Not physically, but inside. I felt like every conversation was about failure or money or both. I needed a break. So I started putting some expenses on a separate card. Dinners on trips, extra nights in hotels, a few upgrades. Upgrades, I repeated. For who? He didn't answer. I flipped to a page with multiple charges at the same resort. Same dates. Same conference he'd dragged out for a week. There was someone else? I said. It wasn't a question. He stared at the table. It wasn't serious, he muttered. It was just an escape. It's over. I felt something inside me go very, very still. So let me get this straight, I said quietly. You used a secret credit card to pay for an affair and for a lifestyle you knew we couldn't afford. While I was here blaming myself for why we couldn't have a baby and cutting coupons to keep our bills down. He opened his mouth, closed it. No answer came out that could live in the same room as the truth. We spent the next hours lurching between confession and justification. He said he always meant to tell me when things were better. He said he was sure a promotion was coming that would wipe it all away. He said he thought he had a right to enjoy the money he earned. I looked at the statement again. $47,328. 3 years. Hundreds of tiny and big choices I hadn't been invited to. The next day, I called a financial counselor. Not because I wanted to save the marriage. Because I wanted to understand the damage with cold eyes. On paper, if we combined incomes, cut expenses, and stopped all extras, we could have paid it off in maybe 4 years. But every time I pictured doing that, I saw myself working overtime and saying no to everything. Trips, treats, even another shot at fertility treatment, to dig us out of a hole I hadn't helped dig. And I saw him, sitting in restaurants I'd never seen, telling another woman, "Don't worry, I've got us." Our therapist asked me one question that finally cut through the fog. If you found this out while dating, would you move forward with this person? The answer dropped out of my mouth before I could edit it. No. Once I heard myself say it, I couldn't unhear it. 2 months later, we filed for divorce. We sold the house, paid off the secret card and every related fee. Whatever was left, we split. It wasn't much. Infidelity and hidden debt are expensive hobbies. Daniel wanted to work on rebuilding trust while still living together during the process. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with secondhand furniture and a view of a parking lot instead. It hurt. Deeply. But for the first time in years, every bill that came through the door had my name on it, and only my decisions behind it. Fast forward a year. My life is smaller, simpler. But it's mine. I keep a spreadsheet, not of joint dreams, but of my progress. Debt gone, emergency fund building, a separate line marked things I was always told we couldn't afford, that I choose carefully and gladly. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that number, 47,328. It isn't just a balance. It's a measurement of how long I ignored the knot in my stomach when Daniel said, "I'll handle the money," and I heard, "Don't ask questions." People ask if I divorced him because of the debt. I didn't. I divorced him because of what the debt proved, that he could live an entire financial and emotional double life while still coming home, kissing me on the forehead and saying, "We're fine." A relationship can survive being broke. What it can't survive is a secret that big sitting between you and the truth. He chose to spend our future on a lie. I chose to spend my present on finally telling myself the truth.